And welcome back. I'm still with the Deputy Minister of Justice, Mr. John Jeffery, to look at what government can do and, of course, society at large can do to reduce the number of abuses and murders of particularly women. Of course, South Africa has a high murder rate, and many people say the problem is largely with the system. And I read some statistic somewhere that says about 10% of murder cases get to be successfully prosecuted, and about 80 to 90% of them never get to be successfully prosecuted because somehow the investigators mess up the investigations. I wonder what your view is about that the way, particularly when it comes to women, their cases are handled by the police, that leaves a lot to be desired, that some of them end up not continuing with the prosecutions because of how they are managed by the system.
Yeah, that is a problem, but let me just state, I don't have comparative figures offhand on the murder rates, but as far as rapes, we don't compare, unfortunately, too badly to many developed countries in terms of the numbers of rapes versus the number of convictions. Yes, there always can be improvements that can be made. This problem of rape kits availability at police stations has been a problem, but that has been or is being attended to. We have put in place, though, many measures as government to try and improve the conviction rate for sexual offences and to make it easier for survivors of rape or victims to testify. So there are specialized units within the police. There's a specialized unit within the National Prosecuting Authority. And at the regional court level, where most of the cases are heard, the rape cases or sexual offences cases are heard, we do have, or we are rolling out, specialized sexual offences courts. We're on 92 currently. That has been since 2013. Just to specify that there's courts established each year. So in the first year, I think it was about 19 sexual offences courts that were established. That was the 2013-14 financial year. The last financial year, I think it was about 15 that were established. There are 14 targeted for this financial year, of which we've established 3 of those. So those are some of the measures that we are having in place to try and improve. And then we also have the Thuthuzela care centres, which are specialised health facilities where survivors of rape can go to be medically treated and have evidence collected. And we are also looking at wanting to increase the number of those. So those are some of the measures that we are engaged with. The President announced recently other measures, but it's an ongoing fight.
Now, there's a matter of the sexual offenders register that seemingly exists, but it is only known to the authorities. Why is it not being made public? Because the alleged killer of Uyinene Mkhwetjana is apparently a former perpetrator who's appeared before the system and might be on this register, but was employed by the post office, which itself is a state-owned entity. So even the state agencies or companies do not have access to this register. Why is that?
Look, the way the register is meant to work, and let me just say the provisions in the sexual offences on the register came when the bill was in Parliament. It's not that something that came from the executive. And the issue was a register only for, and this is what's currently provided for in the legislation, only for people who committed a sexual offence against a minor, that's a person under 18, or a mentally disabled person. So in terms of the legislation as it currently is, it's not for all rapists. You rape an adult, you're not meant to be on the register as it currently stands. Secondly, the register was meant to be for employers to check whether their potential employees had a sexual offence or were guilty of a sexual offence. That's also, I mean, I think when it came in, it wasn't properly thought through. It's proved quite difficult for the department to compile the register because very often it is not specified what the rapist or who the rapist is guilty of raping. Was it a minor? Was it a child? So as the President said, we need to overhaul this register and redo it. I think we definitely need to look at including all people who have committed sexual offences. The President, in fact, spoke more broadly of any gender-based violence. We also need to look at making it public. But let me just specify that any employer, and I don't know what happened with the South African Post Office and the accused in the Uyinene's matter, murder, but all employers should be checking with the South African police as to whether their potential employer has a criminal record. I think why Parliament determined that the register was only for the employers was issues of privacy, which I think we need to relook at. And the President has said that this is something Parliament must look at. Shouldn't this register be made public? Shouldn't the names be known to people? Obviously, the counteraction to that we've got to be careful of is that there isn't a rise in vigilantism where somebody who's on that register gets attacked by the community they live in, even if they haven't done anything.
Well, the government is being accused of only reacting when the public expresses its anger at some of these things. And we're talking about the sexual offences register. And many would make the case and say, actually, even government departments themselves and different tiers of government do not check with that register whether the people that they employ or recruit are on that register. Does government do that?
As I said, there's problems with the functionality of the register for the problems that I outlined. However, any employer, whether it's by government or anyone else, well, definitely from government, gets checked to ascertain whether they have a criminal record. So if that person has a conviction for rape or for any form of sexual assault, that should come up in their criminal record.
Now, what programs do you think should be implemented? And I'm sure within the executive there are discussions taking place about this, that we are a very violent society. We accept that. We agree to that. But that shouldn't be the case. And of course, particularly in the case of women, you know, they need and seek protection from somewhere. We do have the authority of the government and the monopoly on the part of the government to use the authority to apprehend or deal with whoever commits a crime, however way it wants. What are the major things that we should look out for going forward?
Look, the President announced a number of measures to the nation. The obviously aspects in terms of, so those are new measures that would be being looked at, continuing the rollout of sexual offences courts, increasing sentences or the minimum sentences, the issue of bail, things like that. I think a key issue is obviously ensuring that the justice system functions better, so that when somebody reports a rape, that they get sensitively and correctly processed so that the evidence can be collected. There's greater sensitivity from the police when domestic violence matters are reported. However, this problem is bigger than just, much bigger than just government. Most women, as far as I understand, are raped by somebody they know. You have most of the gender-based violence, the domestic violence, is taking place in people's homes. You can't have a police person in each home to patrol each family, each relationship. And I think we have to confront a society as a whole. What are we doing wrong? What is wrong with us as South Africans? Why is there so much violence against women and children? Why do men seem to expect that they're entitled to sex from whoever they want it from? So these are things are things that society as a whole needs to look at.
Sure.
And I think that all role players in society have a key role to play in that. The media, the churches, for example, anyone working with people.
Well, I suppose the government has got to play a leading role in that regard by convening the different role players or coming up or proposing some social programs of sorts. Are there any ideas coming from government on how to deal with this matter of sensitizing the public to gender-based violence and the extent of it and the damage it's causing to the psyche of our nation?
Look, government has been working, and from the level of the President, government has been working with society. So there was a gender-based violence summit that was held last year. A declaration came out of that. That was between government and civil society. What was agreed upon in that summit is being implemented by government. We've obviously got to look at more. The President has made an appeal to the churches to convene prayer days over this weekend. So those are some of the things we need to look at more and more fora. I mean, I have been together with some of my colleagues to events at universities with the students to talk about gender-based violence. Sometimes you feel that the people who are coming there are the ones that already are concerned, and those who are the problem are not there. But we've got to look at ways of increasing the engagement with society. But I think it starts with you and me as individuals. How do we interact with our friends when people are talking about women? Those kinds of issues. So it's something I would appeal that society as a whole, we all need to be asking, what can I do in the fight against gender-based violence?
And of course, the President has spoken and said that there are steps that are going to be taken. But for you, Mr. John Jeffery, being in the Department of Justice, what do you promise the nation? What can we expect from your department?
Well, it would be both justice and the prosecuting authority. I think I can speak for them on this issue, and that is to ensure that the existing laws are better implemented. I must say that it's not something new. It's not as if we've been doing nothing. About 2 years ago, we had a big workshop between government and civil society on the implementation of the Sexual Offences Act, and to look at how it could be improved. But it's obviously something we've got to work harder on. From justice's side, we've got to ensure that the system works better for the victims of gender-based violence and femicide, or particularly intimate femicide, where the woman is killed by a partner or somebody who was close to her.
And of course, many ideas needed here to deal with those who are not yet converted. As you said earlier on, that most of the converted will agree with what we are saying here in this program this morning. But the key challenge facing the government and the people of South Africa is how you change the attitudes of those who believe that it is the right thing to do to be oppressive and violent towards women in our society. Thank you very much, John Jeffery, for talking to us this morning. And after the break, we'll continue our focus on the killings of women that shocked the nation this past week. Don't go away.